You are awake. Good.
Where am I?
You are on our ship. Who are you?
On the capital world of the Valorian Empire, the sky was bright and clean. Floating towers of crystal and steel filled the horizon, and millions of beings gathered in silence. Today was a royal day. The Queen of Valoria was about to appear with her only child, the future heir of the Empire. It was a rare moment, and every species in the Alliance watched with careful eyes. Among the endless rows of elite alien guards stood a single human. His armor was simple, his badge small, his position low. Humans were not warriors here. They were helpers, watchers, background figures. The human's name was Elias Kade, and he knew exactly what the galaxy thought of his kind: weak, emotional, fragile, useful only for small tasks. He stood still, hands relaxed, eyes moving slowly across the massive plaza. He had been trained to observe, not to fight. Humans were rarely given weapons at royal events. Around him, tall, armored Valorian guards stood proud, their advanced weapons glowing softly. They trusted technology more than instinct. The crowd whispered as the royal platform opened. Light spilled outward, and the queen stepped forward. Her presence commanded silence. Beside her walked the royal child, small, curious, and unprotected by armor. Elias felt his chest tighten, not from fear, but from something deeper, something he could not explain. His eyes moved again, left to right, crowd to balcony, shadow to shadow. Then he noticed it, a movement that did not match the rhythm of the crowd. A hand slipping where it should not be, a pause that lasted half a second too long. Elias leaned forward slightly. His heart began to beat faster. He opened his mouth to speak, but stopped. He was human. His voice carried no weight here. The Valorian scanners showed no threat. The guards remained still, confident. The queen smiled at her child, unaware. Elias saw a flash of metal, small, thin, fast. Time slowed. In that moment, Elias understood something the galaxy never had. Danger did not always announce itself loudly. Sometimes it whispered. The first knife flew. Elias moved. He did not think, he did not calculate odds, he did not remember his rank. His body reacted before his mind could stop it. He stepped into the path of the blade. Pain exploded across his side as metal cut deep. The force stole his breath, but he stayed standing. Gasps echoed across the plaza. Before anyone could react, a second attacker moved, hidden among the crowd. Another knife appeared. Elias turned, blood already soaking into his uniform. He raised his arm. The blade struck flesh. The royal child screamed. Valorian guards finally moved, but they were seconds too slow. Elias placed himself fully between the attackers and the child. His body became a shield. A third knife struck his shoulder, a fourth his back. Each impact felt like fire. He fell to one knee but refused to collapse. The crowd erupted into chaos. Alarms screamed. Weapons powered up. Elias looked back once. He saw the child alive, eyes wide, unharmed. That was enough. A final attacker lunged forward, desperate, silent. Elias took the hit, the knife sinking deep into his side. His strength failed, his legs gave out, and he collapsed onto the stone floor, blood spreading beneath him. The assassins were eliminated in seconds, but the damage was done. Silence followed, heavy and stunned. No one spoke. The queen stared at the fallen human, her expression unreadable. Medical teams rushed forward, scanners flashing warnings. Red symbols filled their displays. A Valorian medic whispered in disbelief. No species survives this. Elias Kade did not move. The royal child was pulled into protective arms. Still alive. Still breathing. Saved by someone the Empire had never respected. As Elias was lifted onto a medical platform, his eyes fluttered open for a brief moment. He did not look at the queen. He did not look at the crowd. He looked at the child. Then darkness took him. Across the galaxy, millions would later ask how a human did what elite warriors could not. But on that day, no one yet understood the cost or the consequences. And if you want to hear how this single moment changed the fate of humanity, gently consider subscribing to this channel so you do not miss what comes next. The queen took one step forward, staring at the blood on the ground, and the galaxy held its breath. Elias Kade drifted between darkness and sound. His body felt heavy, distant, like it no longer fully belonged to him. Sharp lights burned above his eyes. Voices echoed around him in strange tones. Fast, nervous, afraid. He was alive, though no one expected that. The medical chamber of the Valorian royal complex was silent except for alarms and hurried footsteps. Glowing machines hovered around the human's broken body, scanning, calculating, failing to understand. 6 wounds, deep and precise, meant to kill. Alien doctors moved with speed but also confusion. Their medical knowledge told them one clear truth. No being should still be breathing after this. One medic checked the readings again. Then again, disbelief growing with every scan. His heart is still strong. The medic whispered. How is that possible? The queen stood behind the transparent barrier, watching. Her hands clenched tightly at her sides. She had seen warriors fall to less, generals, champions, heroes of 100 worlds. But this human, this low-ranked guard, refused to die. As surgeons worked, Elias's mind slipped into memory. He remembered Earth, a small blue world the galaxy rarely spoke about, a world of storms, war, struggle, and stubborn survival. He remembered training camps where pain was not avoided but endured, where quitting was worse than failing. Humans learned early that life was not gentle, and survival was a skill. A blade twisted inside his side as a medic worked. Elias groaned softly. His fingers twitched. He is reacting, one doctor said, shocked. Increased sedation, another replied. But Elias's mind kept fighting, even as his body was cut open to save what remained. In the royal corridor outside, the child sat silently, wrapped in protective fabric, eyes wide, small hands shaking. The child remembered blood, the sound of metal cutting flesh, the human stepping forward without fear. The queen knelt beside her child, placing a calming hand on their shoulder. But her own thoughts were far from calm. She replayed the moment again and again. The scanners showed no threat. The elite guards hesitated. The human moved. Why, she wondered, why would a human do this? He had no bond to the royal family, no promise of reward, no order given. He chose pain. Back in the chamber, one blade fragment was removed. Then another, each one had narrowly missed vital organs, not by chance, but by movement, by instinct. He adjusted his body to take the hits. A medic realized aloud. The room went quiet. That meant the human knew he was being stabbed, and still chose to protect. 6 times. One choice, repeated again and again. Elias's breathing became shallow. Monitors began to fluctuate. Warning lights flashed brighter. We are losing him, a medic called out. The queen stepped forward, ignoring protocol. Her presence filled the room. Save him, she said calmly. But her voice carried command stronger than any order. The medical team pushed harder, using experimental methods reserved only for royalty. Methods no human had ever received before. Energy surged. Machines hummed louder. Elias's heart slowed, then steadied, slowed again, then steadied once more, like a warrior refusing to fall. Minutes stretched like hours. Finally, the alarm softened, the readings stabilized. He will live, the lead medic said, disbelief still heavy in their voice. But he will never be the same. The queen nodded once, her gaze never leaving the human. Neither will the galaxy, she thought. News of the attack spread fast, faster than light through secure channels. Whispers turned into shock, shock into fear. Assassins inside the capital during a royal event, and a human stopped them. Alien councils across distant systems replayed the footage, slowed, zoomed, analyzed. They saw the hesitation of advanced guards, the failure of perfect technology. They saw a human body move again and again into death's path. Many dismissed it as luck, others called it madness. A few felt something else, unease. If this is what a single human could do without armor, without orders, without hesitation, what could humanity become if unleashed? Hours later, Elias finally opened his eyes. Pain rushed back like fire through his veins. But he was alive. He saw white walls, unfamiliar shapes, glowing symbols he could not read. Then he saw her. The queen stood at the foot of his bed, tall, silent, watching him with eyes filled not with authority, but something closer to respect. You are safe, she said gently, breaking centuries of royal distance. Elias tried to speak, but his throat burned. He swallowed hard. The child, he whispered. Alive, the queen answered, because of you. Elias closed his eyes again, relief washing over him. His duty was done. The queen turned away slowly. Her expression hardened with resolve. This was not just an act of bravery. It was a message written in blood. And the galaxy was about to learn what it meant when a human chose to stand in the way of death. The human did not wake again for many hours. Inside the royal medical wing, time moved slowly. Lights dimmed and brightened in soft cycles. Machines whispered instead of shouted. As if even the technology feared disturbing him, Elias Kade lay motionless, wrapped in layers of healing fabric and glowing medical fields. His body showed signs of damage no Valorian doctor had ever seen on a living being. 6 knife wounds. Deep, angled, precise. Any one of them should have ended his life. Yet his heart continued to beat, slow but steady, like a drum refusing to stop. The lead medic stood beside the bed, staring at the data floating in the air. This should not be possible, they said quietly. Human organs are not reinforced. Their bones are fragile, their skin thin, and yet, here he is, another medic replied, still breathing, still fighting. Across the transparent wall, the Queen watched in silence. She had not left since the surgery ended. Not once. Advisors had begged her to rest. Commanders had demanded her presence. The council requested immediate sessions. She ignored them all. Her eyes remained on the human. She remembered the sound of metal entering flesh, the way his body had moved without fear, the way he had never looked back. Valorian warriors were trained from birth, shaped by discipline and honor. They fought because it was expected, because it was written into their laws, but the human had no such law. He chose. That truth unsettled her more than the attack itself. Hours passed, then more. Suddenly, a sharp tone echoed through the chamber. Monitors flared. Readings shifted wildly. The human's heart rate spiked, then dropped. Doctors rushed in, surrounding the bed, adjusting fields, injecting stabilizers. He is waking, one said, but his body may not accept it. The Queen stepped closer, close enough that she could see the small scars already forming. Marks that would never fully fade. Elias's fingers twitched. Slowly, painfully, his chest rose with a deep, broken breath. Pain hit him like a wave, sharp and overwhelming. His body screamed in protest, demanding rest, demanding surrender, but Elias did not surrender. His eyes opened, unfocused at first, then slowly aware. The ceiling above him was not earth steel, not human design. The shapes were too smooth, the light too soft. He tried to move, failed. A low sound escaped his throat. Easy, the medic said gently. Do not fight, your body has suffered severe trauma. Elias swallowed, each motion burned. Did? He whispered, then stopped, breath shaking. The Queen leaned forward, close enough for him to see her clearly. Your sacrifice was not in vain, she said softly. The child lives. Something changed in his expression. Not relief exactly, but release, as if a weight he had carried finally lifted. Good, he whispered. Then his eyes closed again. The doctors watched closely, but this time the monitors did not crash. His heart remained steady. He survived waking, one whispered. Amazed. The Queen straightened slowly, her thoughts racing. This human was not surviving by accident. He was enduring. Later, alone in her private chamber, the Queen ordered full access to Elias Kade's records. She expected little, a low-rank file, minimal achievements, no special commendations. What she found unsettled her deeply. Elias was not elite, not enhanced, not genetically altered. He was average by human standards. Born on a mining colony, raised in harsh conditions, volunteered for interstellar service not for glory, but for stability. No history of violence beyond training, no record of aggression. Just discipline, consistency, and something humans called responsibility. He was assigned to royal security not because of excellence, but because humans were considered expendable, reliable, replaceable. The Queen felt something twist in her chest. Replaceable. She summoned her chief scientist, a being known for cold logic and brutal honesty. Explain humans to me, she demanded. The scientist hesitated, then spoke. Humans evolved on a world with constant threats, predators, disasters, internal conflict. Survival required pain tolerance and emotional bonding. They protect each other instinctively, especially the young. They are fragile alone, the scientist continued, but together, and when defending something they value, they become difficult to stop. The Queen thought of the child. Small, frightened, surrounded by strangers. Elias had seen that. In the days that followed, rumors spread quietly through the palace. The humans still lived. Some guards avoided the medical wing, uneasy, others visited in silence, standing outside the door, staring at the being who had changed everything. Alien soldiers who once mocked humans now spoke in whispers. If he survives this, what else can they survive? On the 4th cycle, Elias woke again. Stronger this time. Pain still ruled his body. But his mind was clear. A Valorian officer stood nearby, watching him with open curiosity instead of dismissal. "You should be dead," the officer said bluntly. Elias gave a weak, tired smile. "I know," he replied softly. The officer did not laugh. Across the capital, hidden deep within secure networks, something else stirred. Those who had ordered the assassination were watching too. They had planned perfectly, studied every defense, every weakness. They had not planned for a human refusing to die. And as Elias Kade breathed through another painful moment, holding on to life with stubborn will, forces across the galaxy began to move. Because one truth was becoming impossible to ignore. Humans were not weak. They were simply patient. The Queen did not sleep that cycle. While the capital world rested under artificial night, she sat alone in the High Council chamber, surrounded by floating screens filled with data, reports, and silent recordings. Every angle of the attack played again and again, slowed, magnified, studied. She watched the moment where her elite guards hesitated, trusting their scanners, trusting systems that had never failed them before. Then she watched the human move. No command, no signal, no hesitation, just motion. The Queen paused the image where Elias stepped in front of the first blade. His body already turning, already accepting pain. "Why?" she whispered to the empty room. The galaxy had rules, every species followed them. Self-preservation came first, duty second, others last. Humans did not follow that order. She summoned the high-intelligence archivists, beings who recorded the history of every species within the Alliance. "Bring me everything about humanity," she ordered, not the summaries, not the approved versions, everything. The archivists exchanged uneasy glances but obeyed. Data poured in, wars, disasters, plagues, collapses, recoveries, again and again. The Queen saw a pattern that no one had bothered to notice before. Humans survived things that should have erased them. They lost worlds, rebuilt them, lost again, and still continued. They fought among themselves, yet united instantly when an outsider threatened their young. Their history was not clean or noble, but it was stubborn, relentless. An advisor entered quietly. "Your Majesty, the Council demands answers. They fear instability." The Queen did not turn. "They should fear ignorance more," she replied. At her command, a secret investigation expanded beyond the palace, into military records, labor deployments, casualty reports. What she found made her blood run cold. Humans were always assigned to the most dangerous support roles: security without authority, engineering without recognition, exploration without extraction priority. When casualties occurred, human losses were marked as acceptable, replaceable. The word appeared again and again, buried in official language. The Queen clenched her fists. Meanwhile, far from the capital, hidden within shadow networks, the surviving conspirators met in silence. The human lived, one of them hissed. "Impossible," another replied, but confirmed. Fear crept into their voices. Fear not of the Queen, but of consequences they had not planned for. "If the Queen learns what humans truly are capable of," one said, "everything changes." Back in the palace, the Queen ordered Elias's commanding officers brought before her. They arrived nervous, stiff, unprepared. "Why was a human placed so close to my child?" she asked calmly. "Because humans are observant, reliable, and expendable," one officer answered without thought. Then froze. The room went cold. "Expendable," the Queen repeated, her voice quiet. The officer realized his mistake too late. She dismissed them without punishment, which frightened them far more. Later, she visited the medical wing again, this time without guards, without ceremony. Elias was awake, sitting partially upright, supported by medical fields. His face pale, scars dark against his skin. He tried to stand when he saw her, failed, and winced. "Do not move," the Queen said, raising a hand. They sat in silence for a moment. "Why did you do it?" she asked finally, not as a ruler but as a mother. Elias looked confused. "Do what, Your Majesty? Why did you step forward?" she pressed. "You had no order, no obligation." Elias thought for a long moment, his breathing slow and careful. "The kid was scared," he said simply. That was all. No speech, no hero words, no claim of honor. Just truth. The Queen felt something break inside her. Something ancient and tightly held. Across the galaxy, debates began quietly. Analysts noticed changes in royal data access, unusual troop movements, sealed council sessions. Something was happening at the highest level. Meanwhile, the child asked about the human every cycle. "Is he still alive?" The child whispered to caretakers. "Yes," they answered, "because of you." The queen watched this from afar, her resolve hardening. She called a closed council. Attendance mandatory, silence enforced. When the chamber sealed, she spoke. "We have misjudged a species," she said. Murmurs rippled through the room. "Humans are weak," one counselor objected. "Fragile, emotional. They are durable," the queen replied, "and more importantly, they choose to protect." She displayed the attack footage once more. "Watch closely," she ordered. No one spoke as the knives struck, again and again. "He could have run," the queen continued. "He could have fallen back after the first wound. But he stayed." "Why?" another counselor asked quietly. "Because humans bond," the queen answered. "And once bonded, they endure pain without limit." The council shifted uneasily. This truth, hidden for centuries, now stood exposed. Humans were not dangerous because of strength. They were dangerous because of loyalty. In the shadows of the galaxy, enemies listened, allies questioned, and old assumptions began to crumble. As Elias lay back against his support field, staring at the unfamiliar ceiling, unaware of how far the ripples had spread, the queen finalized her decision. History would remember this moment not as an assassination attempt, but as the day the galaxy finally learned the truth about humanity. The law of the Valorian Empire was clear and unbreakable. A queen must never interfere with the fate of a lower species. She must never show favor, never bend protocol, never change the balance of power based on emotion. For over 1,000 cycles, no ruler had dared to cross that line. Until now, the queen stood alone in her private chamber, staring at the imperial seal floating before her. One command from her would trigger laws that had not been used in generations. She knew the cost. Breaking this law would shake the council, anger powerful worlds, and place her own rule in danger. But when she closed her eyes, she did not see laws or councils. She saw blood on white stone. She saw a human body taking knife after knife. She saw her child alive because someone chose pain over fear. The queen opened her eyes. "Summon the human," she said quietly. Moments later, advisors rushed in, alarmed. "Your Majesty, that is not permitted. Direct contact violates royal distance laws." The queen did not turn. "Then the law will bend," she replied. Elias Kade was moved under heavy secrecy. Corridors sealed. Guards dismissed. Cameras shut down. No announcement was made. No record logged. In the heart of the palace, the queen waited. When Elias was brought in on a hovering medical platform, the room felt suddenly smaller. He looked fragile now, pale, scarred, breathing slow and careful. Yet the queen felt more weight in his presence than in any council chamber. "Leave us," she ordered. The guards hesitated, then obeyed. Silence settled between them, thick and tense. "You should not be here," Elias said weakly, not out of fear, but honesty. "Neither should you be alive," the queen replied. "Yet here we both are." She stepped closer, then did something no ruler of Valoria had ever done. She lowered herself, kneeling so they were at eye level. Elias tried to speak, failed, shock crossing his face. "Do not struggle," she said. "This moment belongs to truth, not titles." She placed a small crystal device between them, ancient, forbidden. "This holds unfiltered royal knowledge," she said, voice low. "If the council learns I showed this to you, I will be removed." Elias stared at it, confused. "Why show me this?" "Because you already paid the price," she answered. With a touch, the device activated. Images filled the air. Human casualty numbers, hidden assignments, classified orders. Elias watched silently as the truth unfolded. Humans sent first, humans lost most, humans erased from credit. "We called it balance," the queen said, "but it was convenience." Elias clenched his jaw, not angry, not surprised. "We knew," he said softly. The queen froze. "You knew?" Elias nodded slowly. "Humans always know when they are being used. We just decide if the job is still worth doing." That answer struck deeper than accusation ever could. The queen stood, resolve hardening. "Then hear this," she said. "I will change it." Elsewhere in the palace, alarms began to sound. Not emergency alarms, but authority alerts. Council members looked up from their chambers in confusion as ancient symbols appeared across their displays. "An emergency royal address." "Impossible," one counselor whispered. "Those systems are sealed." In the grand broadcast hall, the queen stood before the empire, her image spreading across thousands of worlds. She did not wait for ceremony. "Citizens of the Alliance," she began, "today I invoke the sovereign override." Gasps echoed in distant chambers. That law had not been spoken aloud in centuries. By this authority, she continued, I suspend all protocols governing species hierarchy within royal service. Effective immediately, counselors shouted, demanded interruption. But the override locked them out. I further declare, the Queen said, that the human species is no longer classified as auxiliary labor. Across human colonies, workers froze, screens flickering with disbelief. Effective this moment, humans are granted equal standing within imperial defense and command structures. The galaxy erupted. Protests, panic, outrage, celebration, fear. In shadow networks, enemies cursed, plans collapsing. In the medical chamber, Elias listened through a silent feed, heart pounding despite the pain. What is she doing? He whispered. The Queen's voice continued, calm, unstoppable. This decision is irreversible. Any attempt to undermine it will be treated as treason. The council finally broke through the broadcast barrier, flooding the chamber with furious voices. You cannot do this, one screamed, it will destabilize everything. The Queen turned to face them, eyes cold. Everything was already unstable, she said, you simply chose not to see it. She ended the transmission with a final sentence that echoed through history. The Empire owes a debt written in human blood, and I intend to repay it. The broadcast cut. Silence followed. Elias exhaled slowly, pain flaring with emotion. You broke the law for us, he said. The Queen looked at him, expression unreadable. No, she replied, I broke it because it was wrong. Far beyond the capital, forces shifted, alliances trembled, and long-buried fears awakened. Because when a queen breaks her own laws for a species once called weak, the galaxy knows one thing for certain. Nothing will ever be the same again. The galaxy did not calm after the Queen's broadcast. It trembled. Across thousands of worlds, leaders argued, generals panicked, and analysts rewrote doctrines that had stood unchanged for centuries. Human channels exploded with confusion and disbelief. Equal standing, some whispered, is this real? On the Valorian capital, the council chamber was in chaos. Voices overlapped. Threats were made. Alliances questioned. You cannot elevate an inferior species overnight, one counselor shouted. The Queen stood at the center, unmoved. They were never inferior, she replied, you simply benefited from believing they were. That sentence alone fractured decades of political balance. But the Queen was not finished. She ordered the palace gates opened. A public ceremony announced with no warning, no delay, an emergency honor assembly. The council protested, but the sovereign override still held. In the central plaza where blood had been washed away but not forgotten, crowds gathered once more. This time, fear mixed with expectation. Elias Kade watched from a medical transport, his body still weak, pain pulsing with every movement. You are not ready, a medic warned. I need to stand, Elias replied quietly. When the transport doors opened, a hush fell over the plaza. The human stepped out slowly, supported by a medical brace, scars visible, posture unbroken. Whispers rippled through the crowd. That's him, the human who took the knives. The Queen appeared beside him, higher on the platform, but close enough that the distance between ruler and guard felt small, intentional. For the first time in imperial history, the Queen spoke without titles. On this ground, she said, a child lived because one being chose to suffer. She gestured to Elias. This human was not ordered, not commanded, not rewarded in advance. He acted. Elite guards lowered their weapons in unison. A gesture of respect never given to a non-royal species. Elias felt the weight of millions of eyes. His hands trembled slightly, not from fear, but exhaustion. The Queen continued, today I change how this empire understands protection. She raised a ceremonial insignia, ancient, powerful. By my authority, I name Elias Kade the first royal protector of Valoria. Gasps echoed like thunder. Royal Protector was a title reserved for legendary warriors, never given to outsiders, never given to those without noble blood. And this title, the Queen added, is not singular. She turned, facing the cameras, the stars beyond. From this moment forward, humans will form the core of the royal protection doctrine. Strategists froze mid-calculation. Military leaders stared in shock. Human reaction time, pain tolerance, emotional bonding, the Queen said, these are not weaknesses, they are strategic strengths. Across human colonies, silence fell. Then something else. Bride. In shadowed halls far from the capital, enemies watched with growing dread. If humans are elevated to protect royalty, one whispered, they will gain access, training, authority. They will learn everything, another replied, and they will not forget. Back in the plaza, the queen stepped down from the platform, something no ruler had done in public memory. She stood before Elias and placed the insignia into his trembling hand. You stood when others froze, she said. You endured what should have killed you. She lowered her voice, so only he could hear. Teach us how humans protect. Elias swallowed hard, pain flaring, emotion rising. We don't protect because we are strong, he said softly. We protect because we choose who matters. The queen nodded, as if confirming a truth she had long suspected. The ceremony ended, but its impact only grew. Within hours, human officers were reassigned, promoted, trained alongside elites. Old barriers collapsed under royal command. Some alien generals resisted, others adapted. A few resigned in silence. And deep within restricted intelligence space, a classified message was sent across hostile networks. The Queen has armed humanity, not with weapons alone but with purpose. As Elias was returned to medical care, his body finally giving in to exhaustion, the royal child watched from behind a screen, eyes bright, unafraid. The child touched the glass and whispered, "That's my protector." The Queen heard it, and for the first time since the attack, allowed herself a small, dangerous smile, because what she did next was not just an honor, it was a declaration, and the galaxy was about to learn what happens when humans are no longer standing in the shadows. But at the very front, the changes did not arrive like a storm. They arrived like a tide, slow, steady, impossible to stop. Across the Empire, human names began to appear where they never had before: command lists, tactical boards, strategic councils. At first, some alien officers resisted. They followed orders but watched humans closely, waiting for mistakes, waiting for proof that the Queen was wrong. That proof never came. Human units adapted faster than expected. They learned alien systems, improved them, questioned weak points others ignored. They trained longer hours, not because they were ordered to, but because they believed preparation saved lives. The Empire noticed something new on the battlefield. Human teams did not retreat when one fell. They closed ranks, protected the injured, and pushed forward together. Casualty rates dropped, mission success rose. The data spoke louder than prejudice ever could. Elias Kade recovered slowly. Every movement reminded him of the knives, of the choice he had made. Scars remained, deep and visible. He did not hide them. When he returned to duty, it was not as a symbol, but as himself. Royal protector, instructor, advisor. He taught alien guards something no manual had ever explained. Watch the quiet places, trust your instincts, protect the vulnerable first. Some laughed at first. Then they survived situations where they should not have, and the laughter stopped. The royal child grew older, stronger, curious. They visited Elias often, asking questions no one else dared to ask. "Why did you stand there?" the child once asked. Elias thought carefully. "Because someone had to," he replied. That answer stayed with the child, shaping something deep and lasting. Beyond the Empire, other powers reacted with fear. Human embassies were watched more closely. Trade deals rewritten, borders reinforced. A species once ignored was now being studied, not as labor, but as a potential equal. Some chose peace, others prepared for war. The Queen knew this moment would come. She stood before the council again, calmer now, stronger. "You feared instability," she said. "But what you feared was change. Change had already won." When the first human commander successfully defended a core world without a single civilian loss, opposition collapsed. History was rewritten not by decree, but by results. Years passed. The Empire became something new, less rigid, more aware. Humans did not rule, they did not seek thrones. They stood where they always had, between danger and those who could not defend themselves. The Queen aged, but her decision remained her greatest legacy. On the anniversary of the attack, she returned to the plaza with the now-grown heir. They stood where blood had once stained the stone. The heir looked out over a crowd that now included humans and aliens side by side. They asked quietly, "Did one human really change all this?" The Queen smiled softly. "No," she said, "one human reminded us who we were supposed to be." Far away, on a human colony beneath a blue sky, children learned about the day the galaxy finally saw them. They learned that humans were not the strongest, not the fastest, not the most advanced. They were the ones who stood anyway. In hidden corners of space, enemies whispered warnings to each other. "Do not provoke humans unless you are ready for the cost." Because humans remember who they protect, and they never forget why. Elias Kade never sought statues or songs, but among humans and allies alike, his story spread quietly, not as a legend of violence but as proof of choice. 6 knives, 1 decision. The rise of humanity did not begin with conquest. It began with a single step forward, and the galaxy would carry that lesson for generations.